Every child experiences core wounds while growing up. But what most people don't realize is these invisible childhood traumas become our adult operating systems. They are literally rewiring your nervous system, dictating your relationships, and fueling your exhaustion. And here's what's crazy. The very traits society rewards you for are often trauma responses in disguise. That constant overachieving, perfectionism, and inability to rest, those aren't personality traits. They're protective mechanisms from 5 specific childhood wounds I see in nearly every overachiever I work with. Today, we're breaking down all 5, and at the end, I'll share with you a 4-step process to heal them. Before we dive in, though, hi, if you're new here, I'm Cody, and if you're a high-achieving creator who looks like they've got all their shit together, but secretly feels like their nervous system is on fire, and you're struggling mentally and emotionally, I'm you, and I help people like us heal. I've spent over 22,000 hours studying the mind and the nervous system with a degree in cognitive neuroscience, advanced training, IFS, trauma therapy, and yes, I'm a full-time creator with nearly 1 million followers across my platforms, just like you. I know your pain at a molecular level, and the truth is, most high performers don't have mindset problems. They have unresolved trauma patterns, emotional problems, mental health issues, and they're showing up as burnout, imposter syndrome, high functioning anxiety, binge drinking, and so much more. That's why I built this channel. That's why I built what I'm doing here at My Brain Body Lab, to decode the neuroscience behind why you feel stuck and show you how to retrain your brain and body from this big and little t trauma. Because mental health isn't optional in the creator economy anymore. It's absolutely necessary. So again, if you're new here, hit subscribe so you never miss a video. Let's dive into today's topic. What are the core wounds really? Like when people say that, what is that? It's a childhood trauma. This has become like a buzzword in our field. This isn't inherently bad, but it begs the question, what is childhood trauma? And what are these childhood core wounds influencers are shouting about on Instagram? You can't see them on an x-ray, but they leave imprints all over your nervous system and self-worth. Core childhood wounds are deep relational injuries, moments or patterns when your developing brain and body learn that love, safety, or belonging weren't guaranteed. They're not just memories, they're blueprints that your nervous system builds around. They show up in your adult life as anxiety, hyperindependence, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, emotional numbing, chronic overachieving, people pleasing. Like there's so many things. Let's break some of these down. Like the top 5 core wounds that I see. There are tons more, but these are the top 5. And how do they shape anxious achievers, the anxious but ambitious among us? All right. The first one is like one of the most common, which is rejection. Okay. And so you learn conditional worth. I'm only lovable when I succeed. So this is something nearly all of us have dealt with at some point or another. Rejection in childhood often doesn't look like outright cruelty. It looks like subtle emotional withdrawal, harsh criticism, or only being praised for achievements. I've been there, it feels like. Over time, you might have learned who I am is enough. Only what I do matters. This can lead to a chronic muscle tension or a tight chest before giving or receiving feedback, or that sinking feeling when praise isn't immediate or disappointment floods in. This impacts the nervous system as well. The medial prefrontal cortex, involved in self-appraisal, and the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, which helps with tracking social exclusion, light up more intensely in people who have experienced early rejection. The stress response system becomes sensitized to potential disapproval as well. So how does this show up in adulthood? So it could be relentless productivity and overcommitment even when you're exhausted. It could be difficulty receiving compliments or feeling seen unless achieving. Anxiety when resting, relaxing, or doing something unproductive. It could be an over-identification with a job title, a GPA, a resume, or a degree. People-pleasing or shape-shifting to avoid disapproval. Deep fear of being disliked or not good enough. So I don't know if you've ever experienced any of these. I know that I have. Okay. So a really close to home example for creators, right, is have you ever posted a reel, close the app, and then reopen it in 30 seconds later to see if the likes validate your existence? It's conditional worth in action. I know that I've done that. I look at it because I'm like, oh, now I look at it like, oh, how is this doing? And was my hook good? And I'm like looking at it more objectively. But I know when I first started, it was hard not to look at these things as a scoreboard. Like I was a college athlete. I've always been an athlete. Like it's hard to not think this is my new scoreboard, right? And it makes it super easy. So Chloe and I talked about that in the Decision Lab podcast actually recently, or we were on the Seeking Center podcast and we kind of talked about this, how we're former athletes and now we're creators who have scoreboards with metrics and things like that. So, and followers. So kind of interesting. And this could come from this core wound potentially, this rejection core wound. All right. Number 2 is abandonment, which could lead to the fear of being left behind. So if I don't stay perfect, you'll leave. It's not just physical, it's emotional too. Okay. So physical or emotional abandonment wires a child to believe that love is fragile. This can can come from divorce, death, or a parent who's physically present but emotionally absent. For example, let's say you're 9 and you just had a rough day at school. You come home upset, your parent is there, they made you dinner, they're sitting in the living room, maybe even ask you how your day was, but when you say, I had a bad day, they respond with, well, life's not always fair. You'll get over it. Or you're too sensitive. Just let it go. Or maybe they just don't respond at all. They nod, but never look up from their phone. They're technically there, but emotionally, there's a wall. No curiosity, no attunement, no mirroring of your emotional world. This rewires your nervous system too. The amygdala, which is your threat detection space, becomes more active. Oxytocin systems may be dysregulated, impairing the felt sense of bonding. The vagus nerve and HPA axis become prime for fight or flight when attachment cues are inconsistent, which makes sense because children are helpless alone. Abandonment would have meant death. So your nervous system prioritizes hyperconnection seeking as a survival tactic. So how could this show up in adulthood?